Hi, I'm Susie Gitzeg, Marketing Director and a leader of passionate, empathetic, high-performance teams. Welcome to my LinkedIn video series, Leading Questions, where I dive into real conversations with authentic leaders. And today, my guest, welcome, is Kevin Liebl, Senior Director of Marketing. Kevin, welcome to Leading Questions.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Susie.
Awesome. I know it's earlier time, so we made it work, and I'm excited to dig in. I know when we chatted earlier, you had a lot of great stories, and I think our listeners will enjoy hearing from you. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Can you tell me a pivotal moment in your leadership journey or a piece of advice that stuck with you?
Yeah. In fact, I'll give you two. I'll keep it short, but
Okay.
I'll give you two. I think one that always stuck with me, I had a manager early in my career, very early in my career, and we sat down to do our end of year discussion. And he said, Kevin, my job as a manager is to remove obstacles so that you're successful. And for me, I'd never had a manager say something like that before. It just flipped the equation for me. And normally, employees are here to make the manager look good so that they can move up the ranks. And his attitude was, if my team's successful, then I'm successful. So I'm going to make everyone on my team successful. And that's something that's stuck with me and I've used throughout my career. I think the other one, I was VP of marketing for a storage company, a public storage company. And I got the opportunity in the early 2000s during the big .com bubble to be the CEO of a startup. And wow. It was terrifying. And I walked into it thinking, I got this. And then you realize you don't have your safety net. And it forced me to step up. You're going to sink or swim, all the phrases we hear, fake it till you make it. And it forced me to stretch and learn. And that was probably the greatest growth moment in my career because I had to.
I'm going to go a little bit off script because this is a very interesting conversation. When you were in that situation where you realized you had to step up, what was that like for you? I know we talk a lot, even in the series, about imposter syndrome. Did you feel that, or did you feel that others believed in you that helped empower you to go forward? Or what was the thinking that you went through in that moment?
Oh, you go through the full range of emotions. Imposter syndrome, I'm not worthy, the team's going to fall apart. In a startup, especially if you're CEO, but almost any executive role in a startup, the company's depending on you for success. If you're not going to make payroll in 2 weeks if you don't do it right. That's the energy that's either negative or positive in a startup. You've got to get this right. And so, yeah, you get the full range of emotions. And I think the most important guidance I can give to anyone who's in that role is put together a team of mentors that you can fall back on. And when you're questioning your own abilities, questioning the team's abilities, questioning the company viability, you need people who have been there before who can give you advice. And that's how you grow. So it's terrifying, but you turn that terror into positive energy, and the adrenaline rush is what gets you through it.
So I love this story, and I also love your conversation that you heard from one of your first bosses. And I know we've talked a lot about being an empathetic leader, growing your team, helping them succeed. So what does that mean for you? I know you sort of define yourself as being an empathetic leader. What does that look like for you day to day?
I think COVID changed everything, and empathy has always been important, but in the past 3 years, it's far more important than it ever has been. And I've watched leaders who are not empathetic struggle to keep their teams on track. And I've seen leaders who are empathetic thrive. And these are tough times. But, it's much like any other relationship that you're in, whether it's your spouse or your children, you've got to give more than you take back. And you've got to be aware of their levels, their emotional level, their energy level, their engagement level, and adjust accordingly. And that's part of being empathetic. So in my one-on-ones, I have one-on-ones weekly with my direct staff. I have skip level one-on-ones and, double level skip level one-on-ones. And when people come onto my team, if they're a skip level, they're a little shocked that I'd take the time to have a one-on-one. They're often not used to that. And in the first meeting, excuse me, it is early here. The first meeting is a little awkward because they're worried. Why is my manager's manager having a one-on-one with me? Am I in trouble? And then they realize that I'm not even going to talk about their task list, their goals, their progress. I want to hear how they're doing. How is their week going? How is their month going? How is their day going? Are they feeling isolated because they're not getting into the office? Are they doing okay emotionally, physically? And it's a little bit more therapy than it is a traditional one-on-one. But I want to tap in and just see how they're doing, because if they're doing well, they're going to perform well. But if they're not doing well, they're not going to perform well. And so that's more what I'm interested in than the task list, because that's what their manager's doing.
It's something that I've thought about a lot over the past couple of years. I talked a little bit about, sometimes it does feel a little bit like therapy, but also how important it is. I read an article earlier this week about how your manager is the number one thing that helps you sink or swim. It's the number one thing that makes you either happy to go to work every day or dread going to work every day. And showing a little bit of that empathy and compassion and being a human, especially as things have changed, is so important. When I heard you say energy, I would always talk about it a little with my team, that you can just feel even through a computer if the energy is off, if someone's going through a tough time, if you're an empath, you feel it, and you want to do what you can to help them out where you can.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about a time, and this is interesting when you talked about your journey as a CEO. Did you ever have to apologize or admit fault? And what does that look like for you as a senior leader?
Every week. No, seriously, I think it plays into everything we've been talking about: empathy, leadership, credibility, management. You have to admit your faults and show that you're human. I'm trying to think of a good example. I had a staff meeting a few months ago where I made a comment that was insensitive, and I realized it as the words were coming out of my mouth. And it was a term that I've used throughout my entire career, but over the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, I've become more aware that words matter, and you have to be careful the phraseology you use, the terms you use. And I didn't handle it well on the call. The words came out. I knew it was wrong. I continued through. We wrapped up the staff meeting. I immediately, when the staff meeting was over, realized the mistake I had made. And I called another meeting and brought everybody together, and we talked about it. And I said, hey, I'm sorry. I should not have used that term. And I was embarrassed, but I used it as a learning opportunity for myself and everyone on the team. And I think in the end, I built credibility. I think they recognized that I was willing to admit when I make a mistake, and that we all should. Mm-hmm. And I also think the other dimension to this one is, if we're not making mistakes, then we're not learning and we're not growing. If you stay within your bubble of safety, then you're not stretching and you're not growing, and we all need to grow. So I used it as an opportunity to tell my team that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to grow and improve. And I expect everyone to, but then let's own up when we do make mistakes.
That's a perfect example, Kevin. And thank you for sharing that, and also for being willing to go back and have the conversation. I think often as leaders, we can acknowledge that we made a mistake, but acknowledging it publicly and having a conversation about it with your team where it gave them room to also grow and change on their own and see that you're a human being just like they are is such an important thing to do. And I love that you did that. I know that sometimes it feels good as a manager to say, I don't know, or I did that wrong, or I sent you down this path and I thought about it and I'm so sorry. Thank you for your work. That happened to me this week. We went down a path for a week, really wanted to try. The path did not work. And I said, I am sorry. I sent you down this path and thank you for your work. You guys are amazing. We're going a different direction, but thank you for trusting me and thank you for leaning all the way in, and we've learned something and we're going to try something different. And that also felt hard, but it felt good.
Well, I think the other thing it does is it shows everyone on the team that no one's perfect, and it shows them that there is a path for them to grow into leadership, because they realize you don't have to be perfect. I think sometimes we put leaders on pedestals, and that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, and you start feeling like I can never be as good as Michael Dell or whoever might be looking at as your example, and you think I'm not qualified to be a vice president, I'm not qualified to be a people leader, whatever your step is. And we all need to recognize that it's a journey, and throughout your career you're going to continue learning, and if you stall in your career, it's time to change. You need to move to a new role. You can continue to grow. I worked for 5 startups in my career.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I think 2 of them had successful exits where we sold the company and we all did pretty well. Excuse me. A couple of them were mediocre. We didn't sell, but it was a good experience, and I learned, and there was no positive exit at the end. I just moved on to another role. And then one was horrible, but I wouldn't change anything. I think even from the one that turned out to be horrible, I learned so much about myself, about, you often learn positive leadership traits by watching people who do it wrong. And so being in those environments, I realized I am never going to treat a team the way that this leader or these leaders treated the team. I learned that you can so quickly demotivate a team by doing the wrong thing. And, so you learn so much even in negative situations. So to your point, they don't all turn out okay, but that's all right. Career paths are never a straight line. They're ups and downs. What you want is a trend line that's going upward.
I learned everything, not everything, but a lot about the first time I became a leader from exactly like what you're saying, from leaders I didn't want to be like. And I feel like I've been incredibly lucky the past, 6, 7, 8 years of my career to have leaders I really believed in and that motivated me and inspired me. But I also had some leaders at the beginning of my career that were, unkind or dismissive or didn't help grow their team. And I knew that wasn't the kind of leader I wanted to be. I wanted to be a leader that, I'm losing the words, but it's like you all grow together. Like you grow by lifting, and you grow and they grow, kind of like what you're saying. And that isn't something you have to do as a leader, but it's something I wanted to do, and it sounds like something you wanted to do.
Yeah, you want progress to be scalable. And if you're only looking at your own skill set and what people can do for you to make you successful, it's limited. But what's scalable is making everyone rise and the entire team rises. Then the productivity from that team or that division or the company, if it's a startup, is so much greater. And I think that's what you're speaking to.
Absolutely. Okay, last question for you, Kevin, before we wrap up. Advice for future leaders. What's some parts? Yeah.
Yeah, this is an easy one for me. I was given this, I think it was one time when I was between jobs. I think I may have even been laid off after, I think it was when we sold the startup and the new company laid off the management team. And that was okay because we got severance and made some money with the stock options and so forth. But I was between jobs, and it was the first time I had ever been out of work. since I was, I don't know, 10 years old when I started washing cars and mowing lawns and had a paper route. But I was petrified. And I got a couple of mentors to help me figure out, okay, what do I want to do next and how do I get there? And one of them had an expression that I loved and it stuck with me. He said, Kevin, you carry three things with you throughout your career. You carry your experience, your brand, and your network. And those are the three things that from job to job you bring with you. And you need to nurture them and protect them with your life. And, think about it, your brand. How many times have you seen people leave a company and, basically give everyone the finger and say, this job sucked. I'm glad to be out of here. I don't want to work with any of you again. And people don't realize these are the people in your industry that you're going to work with in the future. These, especially with LinkedIn, these are the people who are going to give you references, whether you know it or not. Your future employers are going to look up the company and, oh, I know John Doe. He worked with Sally. So protect your brand. Think about the words you use. Think about the relationships you build. Think about how you treat people, because that brand is what's going to carry you through your career. Your experience. We talked a lot about growth. Figure out how to grow that experience and that knowledge base and that toolkit. And then your network. Your network is so valuable through your career. I look back on the times where I needed help finding that next role, or I needed that mentor, and building a network. It's so easy through LinkedIn, but you've got to foster those relationships. Adding someone to your LinkedIn connections means nothing. You have to foster a relationship. You and I have a working relationship that I know in 5 years, if you called me, I'd drop everything to help you out, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
That's what's important. And so those three things you really need to nurture and protect: your experience, your network, and your brand.
Well, that is a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining and sharing your journey. And for everyone else, please tune in next week for another episode of Leading Questions. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks for inviting me. It was fun.